had bound with my probably.
You can sit like that. Okay, now you notice your background. You're catching the picture on there. Okay.
What do I do with anything?
I have no idea. I unmuted it and I put the video up so that you can.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
How's it going, Emily?
Not too bad. I can hear you talking, so I thought I'd just chime in. You're doing everything right. If you don't want to share your video, that's okay too. You can mute yourself with the little, there's a microphone button on the left, and there's also the stop video button. So whatever you feel comfortable with, you can do and play around with on Zoom.
There's the music and there's the video. Okay.
It's a first for me.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you for trying something new.
yeah. In Platea, we're still having our meetings, but we've done one outside under the pavilion. You know, we could easily be 12 feet apart, no problem. And besides being outside, and then this last one we had, because it was so cold, we had it in our borough building, but we had it not on our office side, but over on the other side. We set up some tables and we had plenty of social distancing. Plus we had a line of chairs for people who came to visit.
Nice.
Yeah, it worked out nice.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Worst thing for us is this is our 150th year and everything's on hold. You can't do anything. Our ice cream social, the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs Conference got canceled. Yeah. So, yeah.
So Platea Borough is 150 years old?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yep, that's a biggie this year.
Yeah, I didn't know that. It is very old.
Yeah. And our building is old. It's an old 2-room schoolhouse. Sometime you ought to come out and see it. It's pretty neat.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah. So, what's going on in your life? Much of anything?
No, just trying to deal with the coronavirus, all the things that have been delayed and hampered. So thank you for your flexibility going on to Zoom for this meeting. So we can loop in people from Harrisburg and other people who can't travel.
Yeah. It's crazy. Ohio's opening up. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, as of this Friday, they will be 90% open.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I don't know what their cases are over in Ohio, but they must be better than ours.
Oh, it's a little higher. Ashtabula County.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a little bit over us. But otherwise, hanging in there. That's all right. Yeah, we're remodeling my wife's mother's bathroom, so I'm taking a break this morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is she in Platea Borough as well?
Yes. Yeah. Just down from my house, around the corner.
Nice.
Yeah, and that house is 200 years old.
Oh, wonderful. It predates Platia Borough.
Yes, it does. And but they had a flood in the bathroom, and we have to replace it. So
Mm,
not not liking that too much, but that's all right. I have some helpers, so
mm.
that's working. Well, any rate, just that.
Okay.
So now just waiting for the time to happen here. Another
Ooh,
6 months.
I am actually getting a phone call. I think this is someone trying to join the meeting, so I'll just pause you for a second. So, hi, how are you?
People join in, the smaller the pictures will be. Okay.
Hello,
Hello, I'm back here.
this is Jan Cavaday from Lawrence Park Township.
Yes.
Call you by name.
Morning, Bill.
Good morning.
How are you?
Hanging in there, Tim. How are you?
Same. Did you bring the donuts, Bill?
No, don't have any around you. I had to take a break from working.
I hear you.
How are your meetings going?
Okay, we're back and open for business, and um, we've really, just tried to let our residents know to send emails in if they have any issues that they want to address. Not really encouraging them to attend yet, and if they do, they wear a mask.
Yeah, well, we wear the masks, but
Okay.
this not this past meeting, but the meeting before, we had, we met out in our pavilion.
Oh, did you? That was a good idea. Okay.
And then, because we can be whatever distance we want to be out there.
Sure.
And we also then last Monday, first Monday of the month, we had our meeting, and we met inside our borough building our borough building's an old 2-room schoolhouse.
Okay.
We met on the other side where we could set the tables up and have all of our social distancing. And we had a line of chairs spaced apart for any residents that came. We had several. But it worked out great.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, we're still doing everything just the same as normal.
Ah, good deal.
Yeah. So, yeah, just that. We're keeping too many things going. That's all.
Yeah.
This is our Platia's 150th anniversary.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, this year. So.
Oh. Had to cancel events yet?
Well, we're still trying for June 19th for our ice cream social.
Okay.
But who knows?
Yeah.
So.
Hi, Jess.
Hello. Hi, Tim. Hi, everybody.
Yep. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Hi, Emily.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
Dave is
Emily.
on.
Hi, Emily. It's Passel.
Hi, wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. All right, maybe give it 1 or 2 more minutes for the other people. We're still missing a few people. We have 22 participants at the moment, but some people might still be trying to get onto Zoom. So why don't we give it maybe 5 more minutes and then we can start the meeting?
Okay.
Is John Morgan on yet? This is Passel speaking.
No, this is Matt Waldinger from Mill Creek. John's not on. We have another call at 9:45. I left it to join here. John said he would probably come on after that was over, so
Well,
he may be late.
Can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
I walk through the roundabout all the time, and they were supposed to have blind pedestrian signs everywhere. They only have it on east and west. They don't have it coming down Millfair Road. And that's where the totally deaf blind person, and I walk with my guide dog through there, and people don't understand I have vision issues, and they honk and yell at me for being in the crosswalk, which is legal for me to be in the crosswalk. So how can we get that other blind sign coming down Millfair Road? That's all.
Okay. Yep. I've got it down here, and I will talk to our traffic engineer.
Okay. Thank you. I'm muting now.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks.
Hello.
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 Hi, it's John Tushak. I've been up on the screen for a while, but I was just trying to figure out the audio. I'm in all the way now.
Great, thank you for joining, John.
Okay, Emily, when you want to start the meeting, we'll start the meeting.
All right, well, whenever you're ready, Dave, as the chair, we can start now.
Okay, the meeting today, Emily's going to run the agenda today. I'll help her with the votes. I've only had power outages in Corey in the last 40 years about 4 times, and guess what? It went out 10 minutes before this call. So I have to do this over the phone, but Emily will run the whole course of the agenda, and if need be, I'll come in behind her. But as we officially call this meeting to order, Emily.
All right, thank you. So thank you so much for being on Zoom today. I know this is not ideal, but we're trying to make it work with the current pandemic as much as possible. So just some Zoom guidelines. This meeting is being recorded and we're hoping to put it up online afterwards, just to let you know. Please mute your phone when not speaking so we don't get any feedback. You do not have to use video if you do not want to. You can if you want to as well. It is your choice. You're not obligated to use video. We do have a chat box available through Zoom. So if you would like to write a question, that is also an option. If you are having any issues with your audio, you also can communicate through that chat box feature. So when voting, there are some voting items to be talked about today. Please state your vote and then state your name afterwards so that everyone knows who is speaking. All right, so now that those ground rules are done, let's go through a roll call so I can figure out who are the lovely people that are on by phone. So everyone who I can see their names with is good. I've recorded everyone who has a name written in their box. If those on phone could announce themselves and say where they're from, that would be very helpful.
Okay, Dave, Metro, Corey.
Hassel Helminski.
Jan Cabaday, Lawrence.
Hassel Helminski, E&D Chair for Erie County.
Jan Cabaday, Lawrence Park Township.
Anyone else by phone? Let's see. All right, well, if that's it, we're good. Thank you so much for that. All right, so moving on to the agenda. So the first thing is the hearing of the public. So is there any public that would like to say anything? All right, hearing none, we will move into the COVID-19 updates. So as part of the CARES Act that passed the federal government, Erie County is getting some funding through that act to EMTA. So Danny, if you are on the line, would you mind just saying a few words about the stimulus funding that's coming to EMTA? Danny, can you hear me? We can't hear you, Danny. Are you on mute? It looks like you're in the meeting. I see a participant. Let me see. I unmuted you, Danny. Can you hear
Okay.
me now? Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. I thought I had my phone unmuted, but I started to second guess myself with that light. So, okay. So I'll start over. We were awarded a little over $12 million for the CARES Act. Of that $12 million, we are using a little over $10 million to basically cover the operating expenses. for fixed route and paratransit. Also to pay for the, you know, PPE, hand sanitizers, extra cleaning supplies, disinfectant wipes. You know, those are kind of hard to come by right now. We've thankfully been able to, you know, purchase those and find a lot of people who have been able to get those items to us. But we'll also be using it for, you know, emergency signage and communications with employees and passengers. You know, as everything is changing, it seems, you know, hour by hour, day by day, you know, we try to notify the public on what's going on with our buses. It is 100% federal share, so that's fantastic. You know, we don't have to have any match with that or anything right now. But does anyone have any questions?
All right. Thank you so much, Danny. Not hearing any
You're
questions.
very welcome.
All right. The next agenda item is the Northeast Association of State Transportation Officials letter to Congress. There was a NASHTO letter and also an ASHTO letter that went out from PennDOT to the federal government about additional stimulus funding. I'm not sure, I didn't hear Brian McNulty on the call yet, but Courtney Lyle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I just wanted to check real quick. Brian, were you able to join on? I thought I had saw his phone number. Okay.
I'm not sure. Do you know what his phone number is, Courtney? I can unmute
thought it was
him.
the 6107.
6107.
It's 673-6107.
I am not seeing him in the meeting at the moment, so maybe he's having technical difficulties.
Okay. Yes, in April, the beginning of April, both ASHTO and
Hello?
then in the, oh, there you are.
Perfect. Okay.
Sorry. Hey, I was unmuted, but I'm not sure how that didn't go through. Good morning, everybody. So on April 6th, ASHTO, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, sent their letter to Congress, and basically what they were requesting was a $50 billion stopgap measure, sometimes referred to as stimulus, but really it's more of a backstop to make up for the lost revenue due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the same letter, it also requests basically the FAST Act, which is about to expire September 30th of this year. The request by ASHTO to Congress is for basically a doubling of the next federal transportation bill. So subsequent to that, then Governor Wolf also sent a letter the following week or so to the Pennsylvania congressional delegation supporting that request. And then NASTO, which is the Northeast Association of State Transportation Officials. So a bunch of states in the northeast corner of the country, New England through New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and so on, sent a similar letter to Congress, just basically supporting that request. We do, as far as the state of Pennsylvania goes, we are not sure what the impact of the pandemic is. We know that obviously travel is way, way down, which means that revenues are down. The money that we use when we talk about the tip obviously comes directly from when folks fill up their tanks with gas. And I know I personally haven't stopped at a gas station much at all in the last 6 or 8 weeks, if at all. And that's true for everybody. So the projected revenue loss could be in the $800 to $900 million range. We don't know that for certain. That's just that you have to make some assumptions about how this might play out in order to get a good estimate on that. So again, we totally support the request for additional funding, but we don't know how it's going to be responded to yet. That's pretty much all I had on the letter itself. Are there any questions?
All right, so hearing none, I guess we can move on to the next item. Wait, there is a question in the chat box. Is the governor's letter available online? Brian, do you know that if the NASHTO and the ASHTO letters, are they available online?
I know that the ASHTO letter is. I don't know about the other two. I haven't seen them myself. I've just received them via email.
Is that public information? Can we share that with people? I know I did not include that in the packet for today's meeting.
Yeah, I don't know for certain, but I would think that it probably would be, but we'll check and get back to you, and we can share it with you if we're able to, Emily.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
All right, so since we're talking about funding loss, Brian, would you mind talking a bit about the construction delays that PennDOT is seeing or not seeing in this case? I know there was a delayed let schedule for quite a while. Would you mind speaking on that?
Sure. Yeah, we've had, so just so everyone's aware, on March 17th, we closed all offices and basically shut down projects in construction as well around the same time. PennDOT, as far as office personnel, design, and so forth, have been teleworking since that time, while construction was temporarily shut down. I don't remember exactly. There were sort of a few waves of the most critical projects that were allowed to start back in construction. I-90 reconstruction for the first 3.5 miles was one of those projects. And then, eventually then on May 1st and really effectively May 4th, all the rest of the construction projects in District 1 anyways were opened back up. So there were some delays. To be honest with you, it's similar to the funding question. We probably know less about the impacts of the construction schedule than we even could guess at the revenue loss at this point. Where we are is when the contractors get back to work, they provide a schedule to PennDOT, an updated schedule of sort of where they were when we told them to stop work. And then we just have to assess all of those schedules and see what the impacts are, if we're able to make up lost time by working weekends, holidays, or things like that. Those are options that are on the table to try to catch up. So some of those, like I-90, is obviously a big job. There's a good chance that its completion will be impacted, but we just don't know exactly for sure yet if that's the case or not. As far as other projects, all the projects were stopped similarly, so there could be impacts to any of those construction schedules, but they are all cleared to get back to work now. The contractors are required to have a COVID-19 safety plan for each project, which would be enforced. So everybody needs to observe the requirements of the Department of Health on the projects. And then as far as the funding impact, if anybody's wondering, federal funds, we're being told, are not impacted at this point. So any projects on our TIF that hasn't let yet, some of these ones on the major projects activity report that we talk about often, some of the more important or bigger projects, any of those projects that have federal funding, we're going to continue to push forward. Some of the state-funded projects we have to reassess, and so we've been prioritizing those, and some of them we already know about that are going to have to be deferred, possibly by a year or more in some cases. And what that means, if it's a paving project, it may mean that if we were hoping to resurface this year, instead we might be looking at greater maintenance efforts on our maintenance folks' parts to try to keep those roads as smooth as we can and safe. There was also, of course, even though we were teleworking from the design side, from project delivery side, we're able to do pretty much all of the same things we could do before from home, except for any kind of field work. And that might include archaeology, survey, environmental field views, things like that, working with property owners on right-of-way claims, recording plans in the courthouses, which were closed down for a good piece of the last 6 weeks or so. So all of that stuff got delayed, and basically that's impacting projects that we're still evaluating that. So there will be let dates that will be moving in the future, projects that were to let this year, where we've seen those delays in design. I think that's pretty much all I have on that, Emily, unless there's any questions.
Does anyone have any questions on the floor about any more delays related to COVID? All right, well, if that's all, we can start moving on. Hopefully those projects will all get done in a relatively timely manner as things go forward. So talking about the 2019 Transportation Improvement Plan, the fiscal constraint charts for the administrative modifications. Let's see, Dan Keene, are you on the phone? Maybe I may have to actually go in and
Good morning, Emily.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, I only really have one action to discuss, and it's the administrative modification number 2 on the chart here. A while ago, we set thresholds of over $1 million for discussion, but I just figured I'd pick one out and talk about it because none of the actions met that threshold this time around. So this administrative modification is for an increase to Hammett Road Oliver Road intersection final design phase. It's $201,872 increase to HSIP funds in federal fiscal year 2020, and we were using available deobligations and the Erie Highway Bridge line item as a fund source, and that's basically increased to cover final design requirements for a roundabout. So that's the only discussion I had this time around.
Does anyone have any questions for Dan? All right, hearing none, we can move on to the 2021 Transportation Improvement Program. So unfortunately, due to COVID, a few of the documents that need to go out for public comment were delayed. Just coordination and everything else going on has put us a bit behind. So the public comment period is now scheduled from May 22nd to June 23rd. So all the documents that have to go out for public comment are listed there under D, and most of them have been provided to you in draft form here. But specifically the dates, May 22nd to June 23rd, are the comment period. And then June 24th will be the coordinating committee meeting where we'll actually vote to adopt the TIP. So that is the new schedule. So that bumps back the next meeting from June 10th, which was originally scheduled for the TIP adoption meeting, to June 24th. So it's a 2-week delay. I'm very sorry about that, but hopefully it fits into people's schedules and they can come on the 24th. It's a Wednesday at 10 a.m. as well. So with these delays, the local federal aid route line item cannot be voted on yet. Basically, with the stay-at-home order, PennDOT has not been able to actually go out and evaluate the roads in Erie County. So we do not have that ranking today to vote on. Ideally, we would have. I really wanted the ranking now, but with the pandemic, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, we are delayed on that. So just to summarize of the applications that have been received, I've received applications from the City of Erie, Edinburgh, Wesleyville, Mill Creek, and Summit. A total of 8 roads were applied for in those municipalities, and 3 are above the threshold and 5 are below that, the threshold we were talking about with the median ADT. So we'll be able to split up that line item and give half to the high ADT and half to the low ADT. So I'm hoping to get PennDOT and the municipalities together to schedule the evaluation of the condition of the roads soon. Now that the travel ban has been lifted, we have to do some scheduling, and hopefully we can get together these municipalities before the next coordinating committee meeting on a phone call to discuss the rankings so we have something going into the next meeting. I'm still hoping that we can approve the local federal aid route line item on that June 23rd coordinating committee meeting with the TIP. So that's still the goal, to approve the roads with the TIP document. So I'm hoping, if no other delays are put in place or no other travel restrictions come up, that that can happen. Sorry, very sorry for the delay on that, for everyone who's wanting to know if their roads got funded for paving season. Does anyone have any questions about the local federal aid route line item? All right, hearing none, we can move on to all of the TIP documents that need to go out for public comment. So there's a lot here. It's a large packet that has been produced, and there's a few things that aren't even included in here. The air quality conformity report was just completed yesterday, so that was not included in this packet. But just to highlight some of the more interesting things that are in here. Let me get to the end of it. So we have interstate, we have statewide. Long document. All right. So looking at the fiscal constraint charts for the entire 2021 to 2024 TIP, we can see we have a lot of money programmed and a lot of additional funds also coming in to the Erie County MPO. So breaking this down into next year, the 2021 year, we have a total of $31,988,000. So we're getting a lot of funds, and a lot of this is also additional to our base. So 32% of all of the funds that are coming in for the next federal fiscal year are these additional funds, the spike funds, the funds we got from TSMO, which Greg Mazer spoke about. We got a bunch of HSIP and TSMO funds that we applied for through Greg and the safety unit at PennDOT District 1 and were awarded those. So we have a base funding, but we also have 32% additional. Then looking out to the entire 4-year program, it's almost 125 million that we're looking at for a total of 4 years that is coming in for the highway and bridge line item. In addition, we have transit funds that aren't even in this calculation. So Erie County is set to receive a lot of federal and state funding through the MPO over the next 4 years. So here's a map of the TIP projects from PennDOT's One Map that's online that everyone can see. It's an open public-facing GIS platform that has active information about TIP projects. And also I wanted to highlight some things that are going on in the MOU document. So this is the Memorandum of Understanding, which is how we change things in that TIP. So from the 2021 to 2024 TIP, what needs to be voted on by the MPO. So for the next period here, this 21 to 2024, the draft says there is a $2 million threshold. So any changes over $2 million will need a vote from the MPO. This also includes any new projects with federal funds and any removing of projects with federal funds. So, yeah, I moved it. But so this is very important because it gives the MPO our power, what really we have a say in happening. So in addition to that,
Okay,
2 million.
Emily?
Oh, yes. Dave?
Okay, you're calling for a vote on this?
Not yet.
Okay.
The vote, well, the idea is that we have the $2 million threshold. We have a change that needs to be voted on from the initial federally programmed amount of $2 million. And then we also have a note that anything that is political or anything that the MPO would choose to have a vote on also can be voted on. So that is the power of the MPO in this document. So we do need a vote to open up all of these documents to public comment.
You want to call for a motion right now so we
Sure.
can discuss?
Sounds good. Can I have a motion to open these documents to public comment?
I'll make that motion.
And sorry, who was that? I'm sorry,
That was
can you
Tim.
say? Okay, so Tim, okay,
Eric Martin seconds.
perfect.
Okay, we'll call for the vote, or let's have the discussion first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's have discussion. Does anyone want to discuss the MOU or any other documents that are out for public comment or will go out for public comment?
If not, we can call for the vote.
All right, sounds good. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. Is anyone opposed? And would anyone like to abstain? All right, hearing none, we will go forward with the public comment period. All right, so I do have some just informational items to discuss. The first is the LTAP classes, the Local Technical Assistance Program classes are moving online. Travis Siegel at our last meeting talked a bit about these classes. They're run through the Northwest Commission. So if anyone has an interest in those classes, they are still being held digitally. Also, there are studies that are being adapted to go online that were originally scheduled for more in-person meetings. So one of these is the Bayfront Central Corridor and the Bayfront East Side Connector. So there were links in the agenda to those surveys if you would like to take them or share the links with anyone. Additionally, Kim Thomas from DCED recently emailed me about a build grant application that the Bayfront is going for again, and they would like a letter of recommendation. I don't know, Kim, are you on the line? Can you hear me, Kim? I didn't see her join, so she might not be here. But
Emily, this is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Brian.
I just wanted to let you know we're working together on that build grant application. So we're going through the final reviews and approvals. It's due Monday, May 18th. So we're getting it uploaded to the site in the next couple days here. We have gotten a lot of different letters of support, which are helpful, and obviously the MPO, a letter from the MPO would help as well.
Yeah, Emily, we can, you want to vote formally on that letter?
Yes, let's vote formally to have it on the record if the
Okay,
MPO
call
would
for the
like
motion
to.
and then.
Okay, can I have a motion to write a letter of recommendation for PennDOT to go out for a build grant with DCED?
I'll make that motion, Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, John Tushak, if you can hear me.
Great, John, thanks. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstain? Or any, I'm sorry, any opposed? Any opposed? All right, and does anyone want to abstain? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to the last two informational items, which are multimodal awards. So I know at least two entities, the Port and Elk Creek Township, applied for multimodal awards from PennDOT. And from what I understand, the judgment of whether these projects will receive funding is on hold right now. Brian, do you have any other updates on the multimodal awards?
I don't, Emily. I don't know if Courtney does or not.
Right now, the direction that we are being given is that new TAP applications will be accepted this fall, but we have not heard for sure when they are looking at the multimodal. We are hoping it will also be this fall.
Okay, great. All right, and just to highlight that the TAP funding, actually, Courtney, would you mind talking a little bit about the TAP funding?
Sure, that is the Transportation Alternatives Program funding that comes from FHWA. It is awarded and is a federally funded program that is for trails and other projects that will help that may not necessarily fit in with the multimodal. Some of the projects right now in Erie that are TAP funded are the West 8th Street Corridor Project, the Erie Safe Routes to School Project. Those are all examples of the TAP projects. If you have a project that you think you would like to submit for TAP funding, if you would like, you can reach out to either myself or to Lindsay DeVito, and we can help look at the application or the potential project before they ask for applications.
Do you know, Courtney, do you know how much funding will be available through TAP? This is the first time so in 2 years, we haven't received any TAP funding. Well, at least a round open up to go out for TAP funding since I've been here at the MPO. Do you know how much total will be available for TAP?
No, they have not let us know what they
Okay.
are anticipating.
Okay.
I am not sure what kind of effect the current situation is going to have on a potential level of award.
Okay.
But I do know that they are still planning on doing applications at this time in the fall.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Courtney about this or any other issues?
Well, it's John Tushak. Can you hear me? Yes?
I
Can
can
you hear
hear
me?
you, John.
Yes. Yep.
I was having some trouble with this earlier. Earlier, the earlier slide that talked about the additional federal money showed 250,000 in TAP for 21. Earlier, though, at some of the earlier MPO meetings, we talked about, down at the bottom there, we talked about 21 to 24 there being zero TAP. So this is a new development in my mind that we have the 250 there, and will that just be for 21, or do you think that'll spread across 21 through 24 perhaps? 250 a year maybe, or no idea?
Those are, and Dan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that TAP funding is not what is out there for people to be able to apply for. Those are TAP awards that are already within the county or the MPO that are going to be going into construction in 2021.
Oh, it's already committed.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is the Safe Routes to School project. So this is something Leanne had applied for a while ago. So over, I think, about 2.5 years ago was the last round. So these are still going into construction.
Emily.
Okay, so
you
as
could
far
scroll
as
up
the earlier statement about the 21 to 24 being zero, it's still zero as we stand right now?
Yes, because there have not been any awards made in addition. So we were allowed to move the one that is on that slide for 225,000 is the Downtown Erie Active Transportation Project. And the reason it has now been moved out to 2021 is because it was supposed to be letting this summer and using 2020 money when it was awarded, and we've had to push it into 2021. So we have not actually been awarded any 21 to 24 TAP funding.
Yeah. And the same thing goes with
so
the PA
any
699
submittals or awards
pedestrian.
that might come this fall aren't funded yet.
The reason it's not showing up is not because it's not funded yet, it's because we don't have any awarded. So like we don't have a TAP pool fund that we just sit on a line item in the Erie MPO. It gets added to our TIP when a project in the MPO is awarded. So we're at zero because there have been no awards. And then if
just because there isn't any money in the pot right now doesn't mean we can't apply for it. Because if you did award a project, it would get funded.
Yes.
Is that how I understand it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's when it would show up on the TIP with funding is when it's awarded.
Okay. Well, that's a relief because the city of Erie's leaned on these TAP funds pretty heavily over the years, and when I saw this plan with all the zeros in it, I thought, oh boy, we're not going to have a chance for 3 years now. We still have a chance. If something gets awarded, it'll get funded.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good.
In the chart above, that TAP should say TAU for the MPOs that do get a regional allocation of TAP, if you ask me. But this is in the general procedural guidance checklist, because TAP funding, as Courtney said, is always awarded, and it always comes onto our tip as additional funding. So that's why we identified it below as additional funding above financial guidance.
Yeah, so for anybody looking at the screen, that the top chart is the base fund, which the Erie MPO just is given basically, and then the bottom chart is what we have to apply for, or a spike fund or discretionary funds. So the very bottom of the lowest chart, you can see the TAP that we've been awarded. So that is in 2021, we have 250,000 for the Erie Active Transportation Project. And then in 2022, we actually also have funds. We have over 429,000 for the pedestrian safety improvements, which is that Safe Routes to School project. So there actually are two projects we have in 2021 and 2022 with TAP funds that were applied for a while back. So I assume that whatever is awarded in this round in the fall would be going for 2023 and 2024. So the outer years by the time things actually get into construction. All right, does anyone else have any thoughts, comments, anything they want to discuss about fiscal constraint, about the tip? All right, well, is there anything else anyone would like to discuss before we close the meeting? Any new business or anything anyone would like to bring to the attention of the MPO?
Emily, this is Brian McNulty again. I just want to make one point of clarification, if I could, about the Bayfront project. So the study in the agenda, it's sort of mentioned as a study online. I just want to be clear, it's really because that project has been downscoped from an environmental assessment to a CE categorical exclusion level 2. This is really the completion of our public involvement at the end of the PE phase. So since due to COVID-19, since we can't host a large public meeting, this is our virtual public involvement. That's sort of the end of the other meetings that we've had already. There will be additional public involvement in the future as final design unfolds, but if you follow those links, there are ways to submit comments for the general public. So that's what that is. Help us progress that project into final design. Thanks.
We have a question in the chat box. Brian, Courtney, do you know if Greenlight Go has been affected by COVID? Is there any updates on that funding?
Any project that was awarded Greenlight Go is still moving forward. I have not heard about any application openings for Greenlight Go, but I can reach out to traffic and send an email to Emily that she can send out letting you know of any updates.
Thanks.
John Tushak, can I ask a question about federal aid routes? Yes?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, John.
You stated earlier that the cutoff, there's 3 above the ADT and 5 below, and that you would fund each one accordingly with $250,000. What happens if our West 6th Street application is well above the 250? So would the federal aid fund it up to that 250 level, and then the city would make up the difference?
Well, the idea is that the condition of the roads will determine which specific projects get awarded. So there are a bunch of projects. I don't have the total ask from everyone, but it's definitely over the total 500,000. So not all projects are going to receive funds. It's really going to be
I
worst.
should have stated if we were lucky enough to get funded.
Yeah,
I realize not everybody's going to get funded.
Yeah.
But if we have a project that exceeds the 250, is that what we should assume? Is that if we're funded, we'll only be funded to 250, and then the municipality would be expected to make up the difference?
Yes.
Okay. We actually submitted 2 roads. One is above the ADT and one is below the ADT. So, and our one below the ADT is under the 250. So we would be able to fund that entirely with the federal aid money. But the West 6th Street is above the 250. So we would be willing to make up the difference. So that might be part of the review process of who gets funded, is who's over and who's willing to make up those differences, you know?
Yeah, and I hope we can have a conversation. We can get the roads evaluated and have a conversation with you and the other applicants. So the city, Mill Creek, Wesleyville, and Edinburgh and Summit, just to talk about this and see how we can distribute the funds, the worst first, but then maybe if we can jiggle around the funds to make sure at least some funding can go to other roads. We can have that discussion internally before we actually take it to the coordinating committee. But that is kind of time dependent on COVID, unfortunately. We got to work around what constraints we have. But hopefully we can have a meeting where we discuss this before the MPO.
Okay. And I don't know how the other municipalities did it, but we submitted a few roads that were bad, maybe not the worst, you know, but we tried to project out how bad they were going to be a year and a half from now when the construction actually happens. You know, and I hope we didn't diminish our chances of getting funded by trying to take that into account, because like I said before, we did the first one in 2017, and due to some utility issues and clearances and stuff, we didn't make it that season. Things got delayed, and then we had to invest thousands of dollars in patching material just to get us through the winter. You know, so that's the issue I brought up before is, you know, you try to pick these roads, but the time frame is so far out. If you pick one that's totally deteriorated that needs repair now, you know, you're kind of wasting money trying to nurse it along until the actual construction project happens. So we chose a couple that maybe aren't the worst ones on the list, but they're very important routes in the city, like West 6th Street. We've redone almost the entire section from State Street to the West City line, and this section we applied for is the very last piece. So that's an important piece to, you know, complete that whole section. And it's got a lot of crack filler on it. It's got, you know, it's in pretty bad shape, but it's not horrible, you know, that to where maybe the ones in the other municipalities are totally blown up, and, you know, they might get some priority, but then they got to nurse those roads along for the next couple of years until construction actually happens. It's a trade-off there. All right, I'll stop rambling about it.
Thank you, John. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
Emily, this is Dan. I just wanted to talk about the process moving forward a little bit. After we make it through public comment period, we're going to develop responses to the public comment and document it as part of our regional submission. And then the MPO will formally submit to PennDOT, including a cover letter as per procedural guidance and all the documents associated with the checklist. And as this, I think you and I touched on it before, we need 3 hard copies and an electronic version submitted through SharePoint once it comes down to our shop, CPDM will verify the checklist and all the required documents. We will work together down here and combine it to into a STIP, which then will move forward into the STC Commission meeting in August for adoption. And then after that, it'll be submitted to the governor's behalf for FHWA for a 40-day review period. And then hopefully FHWA will approve the STIP and with a planning finding document for review of any issues or concerns that they might have. And that all should be completed before the new federal fiscal year 2021. So I just wanted to add that so everyone's aware of where we're at in the process and what we need to do moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Right, are there any questions for Dan or anything else anyone would like to discuss? All right, has anyone joined the meeting since the original roll call that is on the phone? Let me just double check. Or anyone else who would like to say anything? Let me just double check the phone numbers. I think the phone numbers are the same. I have everyone else who has registered their name on Zoom already on our attendance list. So with that, Dave, would you like to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this. Hopefully, we only have another month of it, maybe, or two. But we look forward to getting together again on the 24th of June for the coordinating committee meeting. And thank you so much, and thank Emily and the PennDOT staff for all the hard work they did getting this ready. It's a lot harder to do this type of meeting than a face-to-face. So with that, I'll call for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, can I have the names?
And a second, okay. We have those?
I'm sorry, actually, could you say your name after first and second?
Eric Martin.
Thank
First.
you.
John Tushak.
Thank you, John.
Okay, and without any further ado, we are adjourned officially.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Yes, thank you, Dave.